In a world beyond, time stands still. We dive into the vagary, a nostalgic thrill. Text and legacy, journey of the mind. The infinite loops, we leave our worries behind. Our worries behind.
Good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you might be, or when you'll be watching this. Welcome to Baron Tags Fandom Legacy, as our discussion of Babylon 5, Season 5, Part 2 commences now, believe it or not. With me right now, unfortunately, Phil McCracken is unable to make it today. He's feeling a little under the weather, but he did have a special message for all of us out there. Basically, it says that make it known and understood how Space Jesus is important along with his song, and that, of course, Pop Talk heals and saves. So that's what he wanted to pass on, the typical Philisms, you might say. But joining me right now is Mike, also known as Doc Pop from Pacific 414. Good evening, Mike.
Good evening, Baron. Good evening, Cash. Good evening, all those who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
And then, of course, there's the man who gets no credit because he's Cash Monet of course, Phantom Hooligans. Hey, Cash.
Yep. I'm still hiding the forbidden donuts from Barons.
Yeah, I noticed that, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, you come into my channel, disrespect me like that, out there like you go. After all we did for the Narn. How can you do that for us?
That is why you don't do anything for the non.
Oh yeah, I mean, I that's it. I'm not doing anything with Cash anymore. You have good luck finding a fourth for your gaming stream.
All right.
Which, of course, no. But honestly, we had a great time on Friday, yesterday, with the playing Helldivers 2. I can't.
For
I can't
democracy, right? For democracy.
Yep, for democracy.
I cannot believe how fun that game is. I have it right up there with the same level of Dark Tide. I mean,
it's a lot of fun, man. Yeah.
I like it a little more than Dark Tide, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Mm. It's about equal with me. It's about equal. I mean, less blood. It's still got the blood, but not as much blood as Dark Tide. So on the blood factor, Dark Tide wins.
Yes, that's true.
And of course, Mike over there had his member stream. So anyone, please like and subscribe. The links are in the comments, or not the comment section, but in the description there. And think about joining Pop Talk, because it is a veritable feast of stupidity, and I say that as the head stupid person. Mm-hmm.
Well, which are we talking about? The member stream or?
Yeah, I'm talking about the member stream. Pop Talk
because the member stream, I just let you guys go on and run loose with the subjects. I'll come in every once in a while and say something, but I just let you all talk.
Right, and that's why you should join and become a member of Pop Talk. I should do that in the NPR voice here, because it is public YouTube, and to help support fine programming such as Pop Talk, uh, become a member to Pacific 414. Help keep these three lunatics off the street.
Lunatics.
Yeah, we're lunatics. Yeah, we're all lunatics.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mhm.
And
So,
while you guys were fighting for democracy and Helldivers too, I was checking out Stellar Blade for myself, and I gotta say, I like that game. I really
Yeah,
do.
I understand why people were upset, and if they want to refund the game, but once again, I'm not going to sit there. From everything that I've seen,
mhm,
I would say it's still a fun game. I just wish
Mhm.
companies would just be honest with people and say if there is a problem, let them know about it. Instead
mhm,
of other people discovering it after they buy the game and say, "Well, you guys promised this completely," and
Yeah,
right.
but
so
from what it sounds like it was Sony of
Mhm,
America throwing
mhm.
their
Mhm.
weight around.
Yep,
Boo,
and
Sony.
Shift Up decided to just go along with it, and I don't know.
Mhm.
It's a
Well,
we'll see. What's going to be interesting to see if this game
th-
comes out on PC,
this is
which
this is
should
my
have at launch,
take
but
on it.
it's
This is
whatever.
my take on it. Sony put Shift Up in a tough spot. They
Hmm.
wanted their game out on the market for the masses, and they went along with it. But if you've noticed, Aspire has faced some backlash when it came
Yes,
to their update
they
with Laura
did.
Croft.
They did.
So the
Yep,
same thing could possibly happen with
yep.
Stellar Blade.
They did,
Mhm.
and they said, "You know what? We're going to fix this." And now it's like, okay, well, you know what? You fix this. Well, maybe I'm going to have to buy this remaster then, because you
Hmm.
guys
Mhm.
decided to do what was right. And people say, "Isn't that another form of pandering?" It is in a way, but it's the right thing, just like the
But
Sonic
here's the
model.
thing.
Yeah. Hmm.
Just like the Sonic model that you just brought up,
Hmm.
it was the fan outlash
That's
that
right.
said no,
Mhm.
restore it to how it was.
Exactly.
So if there's enough fan outlash out there on Twitter, on social media in general, then maybe that'll put Sony under some pressure to say, okay, you can have it the way it was meant to be.
Mhm.
Yeah, hopefully, and that's the way
Yeah.
it should be. You're going to promise this stuff, you got to deliver.
Well, I mean, as it comes around, it's the fans that help keep Star Trek around. It's the fans that changed the look of Sonic for the Sonic movie, and it's the fans that help keep this show, Babylon 5, going strong
Yes.
and getting this fifth season on TNT. So here we are. We're going to step right into it. The first episode of this four-episode block is called Learning Curve. And it's significant on a couple of aspects. Again, you could sit back and say it's a little bit of a filler, but it helps explores the Rangers a little bit more, as well as our new commander, and basically uh, coming head to head, you might say, to uh, with Garibaldi, as he keeps on trying to push on which side of the war she was on. Oh, great scene actually in the beginning where he
Mhm.
tries to pin her down at breakfast, not with poor Zach there, who's trying to keep the peace.
Yes.
She basically dresses him down uh, with how she views stuff, gets up and leaves, and gets a round of applause from the crew of Babylon 5 that was in the lunchroom. I think that was pretty good what the scene because
Mhm.
it solidifies she didn't hold back, she wasn't hiding anything, especially from the crew, and they appreciated that, especially after everything they went through.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's there to do the job she was assigned to do. She's not there to cater to one pol- particular group over another.
Hmm.
She was asked to become the new station commander of Babylon 5, and
Hmm.
that's the job she intends to fulfill.
Hmm. And it can be known that I mean she wasn't on Sheridan's side, but she wasn't necessarily fully on Clark's side either. Comes down to the big question: what orders did she follow or decide not to follow under that regime.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, she was saying she was for the order, the oath. She was there for because he's an officer, and this if you go and rebel like that, you're rebelling against everything you swore an oath to, and so it's like, no, I'm it's basically loyal, duty, and honor. If you take one of those away, the other two become meaningless. And she's a person of her, what would you say? A person of the word,
Of her
very serious
convictions.
about convictions, exactly. Which, of course, is what Sheridan wants. And so I think that was a good building for that character. I mean, anyone who might be having whatever thoughts about her because she's coming in replace an extremely popular character, I think this scene helps solidify that no, she is not Ivanova. She's her own person, and she's just as strong, but in a different way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she's not going to take Garibaldi's garbage.
No.
No, he's
Exactly.
gonna push at her. She's gonna push back even harder.
Exactly. And it's like, welcome to Garibaldi. Garibaldi's like, well, okay, fine. I know how to take care of that. And of course, there's the hints that there was a prior relationship between these two. Of course, we've kind of said before, let that slip, that they were married at one time. We're gonna figure that, get to that a little bit more in coming up episodes that we'll be talking about today. The big important thing in this entire episode is actually the Ranger training. Basically, two members of the Rangers, one warrior, one religious caste, wish to see Delenn on Babylon 5. They take two of their trainees. Again, one is religious and one is warrior caste. The one who's playing Terval, who is of the religious caste, is played by Turan Bey, who also played the Centauri Emperor in the first season episode. In How Will It End in Fire. This is also his last acting role he ever did before his death in 2012 at the age of 90. Unfortunately, he passed away from Parkinson's. But again, very delightful watching him play the part of that Minbari. As it goes, what does it mean to be a ranger in this? And what happens when you torque off a ranger, you might say? And in this case, you have some young toughs, or not so young toughs, but some people who are trying to take over the underground and down below. Their activities, of course, is beating up and murdering people. And they're trying to set up a trap to get Zach, because Zach is too smart and he has a way to win people's hearts, you might say. So they set up a trap. The person who helps set up the trap is reneging on it, and they're trying to take her out, and her cries are heard by the two ranger trainees. The one who's a warrior caste opts not to help, while the religious caste does, and he gets the absolute snarkies beat out of him.
Yeah, he does.
And sent to, of course, Franklin, where they're informed that if he was human, yeah, he would have been dead, but he's a Minbari. Just Minbari are just tough. And we have the situation of terror. Basically, their way of going out in response of terror. And part of that is, surprisingly, fighting the fear within yourself. If you don't face what you have been struck down on, boom, you'll be a prisoner to it, and you must fight that terror with basically the terror. And he takes on the tough, gives him a little bit of Minbari Ranger justice, and feels better after himself. And more importantly, the warrior caste, who ran away, also has to face a little bit of that because he felt he was a coward by doing so. So it's interesting to see the training that the Rangers are getting with this. Right, gentlemen?
It is.
Any thoughts on how they do that, or any thoughts about because it'd be so quick to call this a filler episode, but would you call it that?
No, because you're actually seeing a whole process of what it takes to become a ranger.
Mm-hmm.
You're finding out that it's not an easy position to even hold.
Mm-hmm. And
Wouldn't you say that the ones who are picked as rangers have to be the best of the best to quote Top Gun?
mm-hmm. Exactly, and we had a little bit of face of that because they were complaining about the Pak Mara, who joined up with the Rangers, uh, and listing through all the negatives, and it's all the negatives that the Pak Mara are that made him something ideal, a courier, because no one pays attention to the Pak Mara.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they might not be full Ranger material, but they can still serve the Rangers.
They can still get into areas that a ranger cannot,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody would even bat an eye.
Right. No one wants to deal with them, as carrion eaters and various other stuff. The smells they emit.
Mm-hmm. The things they can eat too.
Mm-hmm. It has to be rotten, that's for sure. But they don't like fish. They can't eat
Nope.
fish. So, of course, Travol's philosophy about meaningful deaths isn't shared by Delenn in this episode. She told Franklin that a ranger's death would be meaningless if he took his information to the grave with him. Traval wouldn't consider it meaningless since the Rangers was pursuing a noble cause when he died. So, Delenn has that attitude, kind of look at that. If they didn't follow through with even just getting the information to somebody, it was a meaningless death. But Travol's saying that if you're fighting and doing the best you can get there, it's still meaningful. It's still noble. You're still trying.
And it has some good lessons in this episode about doing your best, growing as a person.
Mm-hmm. This also has the episode 2 where Lockley was overruled by something she considered station matter in this one. Given basically Sheridan that her instance that Sheridan that she should be allowed the authority to run the station her way. And this whole incident that's going on is not sitting well with her. And no, you have the people beat up, but it's like, no, let the Rangers do their thing instead of how they would do it on there. This is like it goes from personal matter to station matter. So again, a little bit of headbutting with Lockley being overridden, which I'm sure she doesn't like.
No, you could even see it on her face that she doesn't like it.
But of course, Delenn is trying in her way to explain why. It's just not. It's just not a willy-nilly thing. It's just not. We're just trying to do this to be bossy. There's something behind it.
Mm-hmm. And we do eventually see it in this episode.
Mm-hmm. Right. And again, this is a very, very simple episode. Just because it's a simple episode doesn't mean it's not. It's not important or isn't still a strong story. And of course, there's the toughs that are trying to take over down below. You don't need something.
There's information in this episode that's crucial to what's happening this season.
Mm-hmm. Right. Character building as well, because we need that. I mean, you got a character you need to bring up fast to speed with the viewers as well. It's like, why do we need to identify with this Lockley? What's so great about her? Besides the fact she's good looking.
What makes her different from Sinclair as the
Mhm.
commander of Babylon 5? What makes her different than Sheridan as commander of Babylon 5?
Mm-hmm. You know, she's the third person now to be sitting in that seat. Well, center seat, as we say in Star Trek. But you know, she's the one that's now in charge and calling the shots. And what is it? What is it that makes her stand out, even above the second in command of Anaba? Oh,
Mhm.
and coming in, we have, of course, everyone's favorite troll, Mr. Philip J. McCracken. Hello,
How's it
Phil.
going?
How are you doing, sir? I did send your messages to everybody that are watching.
I appreciate it. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. Byron's song.
And your Byron song, okay. And we'll all come together.
And they're in a better place.
Cash Money
A
loves that
better place.
Oh, look who joined us. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
We know we need a little bit of space, Jesus. It makes the world a better place. It makes Babylon 5 even better.
I don't know. I would like to take the whole telepathic cult, whatever, and throw it out the window. But it's
always with the negative waves, Cash.
Negative
waves.
Honestly, watching it again, it's not that bad.
It's okay. I've seen worse. It's just
well, what I find about it is, and of course, we're going to any other last thoughts about this episode before we continue on with what we're talking about?
It's still a worthy episode to watch of the season. Again, because you see character development between Garibaldi and our new commanding officer.
Yep. I mean, Lockley is not a weak woman, that's for sure. Just like Delin. They're gonna tell you what's on their mind. You don't like it, they really don't care.
And that's to be the commander of Babylon 5. To do what's best for the people that are on the station, but the station itself.
Exactly.
And I wish she had a second season. I think she would have been able to make her character better. I like her.
So
Not only does she look good, but she's to me a good actor. So, but I am upset that our favorite person isn't in this season, and that hurts.
Yeah, Ivanova is a beast. She's a train.
And of course, Lockley did get a little bit of a pseudo second season with the Crusade series because she was involved with that. So
that's good.
But I know what Phil's saying. If we just got another season of Babylon 5,
right,
get more people used to her. Yes,
exactly. Yeah, but I think this is a good job of helping strengthen that character. I think. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen? If not, I will go this way. Now, we were talking about, of course, Byron. This is going to be a telepathic-centered story involving, of course, our lot of telepaths. Again, we have the situation between Station and in Interstellar Alliance. After you had a ship deciding not to listen and crash into Babylon 5's landing bay, needless to say, there's nobody going in and out. And the future Emperor Malari is needing to go to Centauri Prime, and that's holding him up. But unfortunately, it didn't happen soon enough because coming on board is Bester and his Cyclops. And guess who they're hunting for?
Byron.
They're looking for good old Byron and the rest of his gang. And now comes a game of chess playing because you have, of course, Lockley having to follow Earth Force, and of course the Earth Alliance, which is the Psi Corps, whether they like it or not. And of course, Byron's people, who are criminals. They basically, according to, of course, Bester, criminals. And they were never exonerated of that when they came on board the station. Well, basically given that asylum. They're just told they can be here. So, unfortunately, Bester, being in the correct right, is hunting them down, much to the chagrin of our esteemed team. And good old Lockley and Garibaldi come head to head, especially the fact that when Garibaldi finds out Bester's on the station, comes barreling into the her office and wanting to kill Bester, getting flashbacks to what he did to her, and she throws him in the brig, and rightly so, because he crossed the line.
He did.
Understandable, and she can understand why. She really does, but she's got, again, we're finding out that she is the person that has those three philosophies, and she stands by it. And she's not necessarily even liking Bester, but she's got to play along. And she makes that known. She doesn't like him. She doesn't like what's going on, but she can't stop what's going to happen. Or can she? That's the big question. So, Byron's people trying hard as possible to be, again, peaceful, not violent. And trying to do the best they can. And Lita starts showing a bit of her power to be able to hide them. And Bester realizes that. But he also notices it takes a big strain on her, and that she can't do that all the time. And he will find them. Let them scatter, they'll be found. Which, of course, happens. They get found, and they're all captured. Byron's roughed up by the Cyclops. And, it looks like they're going to be shipped off, which would make Phil happy.
And the thing is, Bester even says to Lita when she uses her psychic abilities, that's pretty impressive. What can you do it to two of us or three of us?
Exactly.
Because it takes a lot out of her.
It does. Yeah, it does. She might have been enhanced, but it's still a lot. Of course, Zach keeps on describing him as a martyr, Byron, that is. So maybe being prophetic, he just doesn't see anything but bad coming out of what's going to happen to Byron.
Well, yeah, and the interesting thing, of course, if Byron, didn't basically, in a way, I mean, he is Space Jesus, but no, if he really wanted to do things to these people who are threatening him, even when he gets punched about 3 times in this episode by some thug, we'll just call him a thug.
Not this episode. It's not this episode.
Oh, not this episode. Okay. But it's he has a telepath, like he can literally do damage to people if he really wanted to.
I mean, he did damage to Garibaldi.
Exactly. Exactly. So, what did you think of her sneaky way of getting them not to go? Franklin is approached by Delenn to catalog all the diseases and biological records from all the member species of the Interstellar Alliance, and comes across the quarantine?
Yeah, well, Bester also is, he's playing his mind games. Okay. And it's just like, oh, well, Captain, the telepaths being around without basically a leash on them, let's call it what it is, they're dangerous. It just Bester, it's time for you to go out the airlock. But but he's manipulating the situation, of course, and look, I understand that telepaths could be dangerous, but they deserve to have their freedom too. I mean, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, Byron is trying hard to be peaceful. He really is. He's trying to do the right thing. So far, there's nothing along the way that shows that Byron is truly a threat to anybody at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Except to Psychor.
Yeah, that's
always.
That's usually his modus operandi.
Mm-hmm. And Lockley, of course, Byron thinking, not Byron, but Bester thinking he's always got one up on everybody. Finds out that Lockley is not to be messed around with because she's the one who figures that loophole out. And they have to be quarantined on the station for 60 days before they can go back to Earth. They can't leave. Sorry, Bester.
Yeah, Bester.
I mean, I love
such
that.
a good character,
I mean,
though, but really good character. I won't even say just good, really good character, but yeah, he's always twisting things. That smile, slick oil salesman again. Just like Mr. Morden. Yes. Just a different kind of snake, we'll say.
Yeah. Snake. Of course, Leeta's also in this story. We find out that she is, stealing supplies from Franklin to go to the telepaths, which, of course, Franklin suspects. Just ask. Just ask.
Right.
This is for down below, anyways. Just ask.
Mm-hmm.
Now, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Go ahead. No.
Go
I
ahead.
just want to point out that Cash Money really despises Scene, but first, she's a redhead. Second, she obviously likes Byron, which Cash Money disapproves all the way around. So this is one of the best scenes right there when she first meets Byron.
That's
not
actually true, but sure.
Well, no, she met Byron a little bit ago.
Yes.
But things are building. But the one great part, I'm sure my two cohorts here, Doc Pop and Cash Monet, would really like is this entire ship when they can't take Londo, and they're on a time schedule. They said, "Okay, go. We'll find another way to get them out there." They turn to go and they blow up an assassination attempt against Londo Malari, and they realize that he's got a target on his back. So what do they do? Well, Mike, I guess you're hanging around Cash Money a little bit more now.
That's true. They get to become bosom buddies.
Yeah, I mean, well, they went through a lot together, so they went through a lot together, and Londo supported Jakar, of course, when he was being tortured. So he knew that was wrong, even though, however, he feels strongly about the Narn. So yeah, they just keep building that history.
So yeah, Jakar's now Londo's bodyguard, and what a odd thing that is, isn't it? A Narn protecting a Centauri. Who would have thought? And everybody's amused by it. Jakar and Londo. It's like, oh yeah, this. You'd figure there might be a little bit of no way, but hey, boom. It's like it fits, it works.
It's shocking. Almost as shocking as one of us being a bodyguard for Cash Money. It's just, mind-boggling. Mind-boggling.
Yes. I'm surprised Phil is here. That's mind-boggling to me, but yeah.
Well, the secret word was said to me. Pop talk. Heals and saves.
Oh, boy.
That's my fault.
Yeah, it is.
And one other little tidbit about this episode, Jakar, Mondo regales who he's talking to, that he's the second Malari to become emperor. That there was already an Emperor Malari the first, so now he'll be Emperor Malari the second. And of course, his ancestor's life ended badly, and in his premonition, he sees himself being killed by Jakar.
Right.
So, and of course, we saw a little bit of that too with War Without End. So, do you think you two can get along and not fight too much when you're together?
Yeah, probably.
Okay,
You'll have to speak to the nun. I can get along with anybody. Ask Veer.
Yeah, who's our Veer? That's the question.
I thought our Veer was Krit, but he's not here.
I was thinking that.
Yeah,
he's the moon face assassin of Troy.
You know what?
He went back to the Centauri homeworld.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I could probably see Krit as Veer.
So, but of course, this episode also introduces us to Phil's favorite song. We will all come together in
a better place. Come on, we know the word. Come on,
better place.
Sing.
Better place. Yeah,
If I was fast, I would have played a little segment of Paul playing and singing that song, especially when he did it for Cash's birthday.
Right, funny. Oh yeah, that was ridiculous. The things Phil gets Paul to do, I swear.
Am I like Bester? Do I make people do things I want them to do?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you're a snake like Bester is, though. So.
Well, if I was a snake like Bester, you're my Garibaldi that I can manipulate anytime I want.
No. But I do know somebody you can manipulate.
Not me.
Right?
Not me.
Yeah.
So, is there any other thoughts on this episode? Again, this is definitely not a filler episode.
No,
it's setting pieces into play, you might say. And
the only thing I would say is I do feel that when Byron comes to the station, he replaces the monks. You know, you don't know what happened to the monks.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you see them walking around. I love them too. I wish they were more involved.
Yeah.
But it seems like they replaced the monks with Byron and his people. You know. You know, Cash one of his favorite style people because they remind him of the Hare Krishnas. So yeah.
What? You know, I originally thought that Byron was actually a replacement for Marcus.
That's same here. And I think that if Claudia Christian was still around, I think she would have been one that was getting involved with the relationship was the original plan.
Oh, with Byron, really?
Oh, yeah,
really?
I think that was the case. But
well, of course, they hinted at the relationship that she was with the other telepaths.
Yeah, Italia Winters.
Italia, right? Yeah.
So, any other last thoughts on this particular episode besides the song and people, headbutting? Of course, at the very end of the episode, Lockley forgot something and had to do it quickly, and that was to get Garibaldi out of the jail. Of course, when she went to the comm, she was hearing all the ruckus in the background of Garibaldi screaming and yelling, "Get me out of here, Zach!" And it's like, yeah, let him out.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, he would have caused problems with Bester being there. You know, you're the one who's being unruly, basically, Garibaldi, as Lockley told him. and Bester's being nicer. But once again, Lockley doesn't really know Bester. So
well, yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure she's read up on him and knows of him. And, of course, it's just that Bester's Moses operandi is, being sickly sweet and gentlemanly, like, even though he's a fiendish SOB.
Right, exactly.
So, and it also seems like Lita is joining in with the group. She takes off her Psi Corps badge when she's down there, and she's accepted, accepted in. So, okay. We have our next episode coming up here. It is called Secrets of the Soul. And this episode actually is directed by Tony Dow, who was, of course, Wally in Leave It to Beaver. One of the few episodes that he did direct the Babylon 5. And we kind of have a two-pronged story in this one. The first one is Franklin, of course, is going out there and cataloging these races. And you have this Hayek race, which we have here on the screen. A fancy Babylon 5 versions of having butthead aliens. And they are a genoocracy, which means the oldest members of the society is to rules over the younger. So it's like if the older ones say something, that is law. And Franklin's wanting to get information on their biology and such. And the younger one there of the two is concerned about that. Will this be used against us? Being very logical about it. But eventually, when Franklin does swear that that nothing will be used against it, he will destroy everything, even if it's to his death. Which we know, of course, this is Franklin. That is the type of person he is. They give him the information, but the only information they have on this Hayek only goes about 700 years in the past. Nothing before that. And he's on a quest to figure out what's going on, try to find what history is about these people. Interesting take as it goes along. Spoiler alerts for all this stuff if you're on there. They came from a planet that had two species on it, the Hayek Doe and the Hayek. And as time went along, and before I continue on even further, I want to say hello to everyone's favorite penguin besides Punk Waddle, one of the team for Penguin Dome, 2 penguins in there, 1 penguin's leave. Low spec Linux laptop, always great to see you, my friend. Anyone who's got a penguin, yeah. Anyone who knows me knows I love penguins. I love penguins and otters. Those are two animals that I really love. But as he finds out that the Hayek basically hunted down and killed every member of the Hayek Doe. With it all, it was basically their shame, and the one wanted to basically get rid of Franklin for knowing it. But now that the secret comes out there, there's even more secrets. Basically, the Hayek are a dying people. And they realized far too late that they needed to have the Hayek Doe to keep them going. But now they're a dying race because of what they did. And this kind of reminds me of the episode of Enterprise, where you had they come across a planet, and there's 2 different species, parallel evolving group of people, one on a higher level than the other, but the higher level is dying out, and they wanting to find a way and stay around. They get a cure. Basically, the crew of the Enterprise figure out the cure for it, but they also discover that them staying around is stunting the evolution of the other species, and therefore, no, we're not going to give you this cure. You're going to die out. So I think it's kind of similar but different, I would say, between the two. Gentlemen?
I will say this, and it was controversial as a kid when I was watching this, and yeah, now some people have caught it, some people have not, but it made it on television anyway. There's a discrepancy if you look at their ears.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And to some people, that reminded people of a certain something that they felt shouldn't be allowed because it reminisced them of a particular, how can I put it nicely? Organ.
Organ. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know many people today know about it, but when you look at the ear and you do a little turn, it kind of reminisces people of that. And some people didn't like that.
I never knew that. Actually, that's something new.
Take a look at the ear, turn it about slightly 180 downwards, and yeah, you'll get what I mean.
We're thinking of a certain symbol here.
Not a symbol.
No, a body part, primarily female. Correct.
There you go.
Oh,
and
really?
there was a little uproar about it. It wasn't big, but there was a little uproar. So yeah,
wow.
I remember that.
I'm today years old finding out about that. I never heard that.
Wow, that's
same here. I never knew that there was an uproar about the way the ear looked.
Yeah, it's like I said. I could see their point if you turn the ear slightly where the slit is. Let's call it a slit. Turn that slit slightly downward about 180 degrees, and I can get what they were meaning.
Welcome to
I don't
Anatomy
think
Talk.
that was their intention. I don't think that was their intention.
No.
I just think it just so happens to remind people.
Yeah. I think people were probably looking too hard type of thing.
Don't forget, the 700 Club and stuff like that were very prominent in the 90s. Very popular.
Was it them that were complaining about it?
Damn it, it was more, I would say, how can I put it nicely again?
Wow, they really went out of their way to
they were complaining about it. I'll never forget they had a 700 Club episode where they were talking about it. And the only thing that was mentioned by the I forget who was carrying it at the time, Babylon 5. The station said was, it's not our intent, and if you're thinking that it looked like that intent, it wasn't. They just said it might reminisce if you look at it in that direction, but it wasn't their intent.
Wow.
I can see in a way both people's point of view on that, but once you get it in your head and it's mentioned, you can't stop but keep looking at it.
Okay, thank you, Phil. Just what I needed now. Thanks a lot, Phil.
Phil bringing that knowledge.
Everybody in the chat, thank Phil. Everyone who's listening, you don't need if you're just lurking, just go ahead and say it.
I want to say it's not my fault. I didn't say it. I'm just saying after I remember hearing about it and then watching the episode again, you just like, okay. Hey, I'm not the costume designer or the makeup artist. I didn't have anything to do with this.
He designed it and sent it in. Hey, I got an alien design for you. That's what it was. But okay. But of course, you do have that where, of course, now Franklin is on a quest to help save them going on. He's not happy what happened. He's not happy that this stuff was held from him. But again, as they say, are you going to blame us for the sins of our fathers? I think that's an important thing there. It's like, when do you stop blaming a group of people for something that was done a couple of generations ago to several hundred years ago? Do you still hold them in contempt?
Yeah, right.
I mean,
it's a good question.
Isn't that what's happening now? A certain group of
Oh, yes.
The United States is being held in contempt for actions that happened long before these particular folks were born.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've had it all across the board. How many people? How many people in Wales still have contempt to the English, but for what was done to them in the past, and particularly, a lot of them are still angry about Winston Churchill and how he ordered people lethal force to be used against them in a strike that they had in Wales. Look at the Irish, the contempt and all that with the Irish and other groups of people. I mean, let's look at Ukraine and Russia. I mean, there's history. What's going on there is nothing new. This goes back again generations. Do we keep holding on to these grudges, which keep on causing the strife?
Right.
And now you got something in the hands of a man, Stephen Franklin, and it's like, one, it's not his war, his battle in this, or he's an outsider and all that. But what do? Do you help these people out, even though they did this? Or are you going to hold them just as guilty because they kept it quiet?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, no one wants to go around saying, "Hey, hey everybody, how great we are!" Hey, by the way, we wiped out an entire subspecies or coexisting species on our planet 700 years ago. Ain't that great?
We're cool though, right?
Mm-hmm. And you had the same thing.
We're all good now, right?
Mm-hmm. And you take a look at Centauri. The Centauri had a similar situation with the Zon. So the Centauri wiped out another intelligent race on their planet, the Zon, and they're all that's left because of it. Do the Centauri get held to that?
No.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, you got that ethical question on there, and my if you want my answer to all that is no. You don't keep the sins of the father going, unless, of course, they keep on committing the same sin. If they're going out and keeping and haven't changed, yeah, but now you're blaming the people to date, not the ones beforehand.
Right.
I see it more like you're complaining about a shark and what a shark does. A shark is a predator. That's what it does. You can't you can't make it a pet. If it gets a chance to take a bite out of somebody or someone or something, that's what it does. Humans, unfortunately, we're apex. We're the top of the chain. And there are some people, unfortunately, let's just say history hasn't been too kind to them.
Right.
Right?
True.
Now, if the situation was reversed, would they be complaining? No. It's like, I'll put the equivalent. It's like a team that wins the World Series. When you're on top, everybody wants to knock you down. But if your team never won a World Series, they're always complaining. They're always hoping. They're always wishing. And they get mad at the teams that happen to win or win quite frequently.
Yes.
You have to remember, humans are no different. Anybody that says they don't dream of their country being great or an empire or whatever, it's because their country never were able to do it. If Ireland was ever to become an empire by some fluke of nature, but if they did, equivalent to Greece and Rome and China and anybody else you want to throw in there,
England,
they're not going to complain.
Well,
and everybody, and you have to understand this: when you're on top, I don't care what it is in life, everybody wants to knock that person, country, nation, people down.
Of course, man.
It's can we say that there are people from other countries that are jealous of the United States and would love to see us knock down a peg.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, of course.
Even we have allies that want to see that.
Right. Well,
but when they need us, like France, World War I, World War II, they know where to come running, right?
And it's not, and then of course there's some arrogance who always, and I think there's people who come here too and they think they're better than everyone else. They've come from some country. It's just like when they talk about things like gun control. I'm not getting all into politics too much here, but I'm just using that as an example. It's like, but you don't understand the situation and you don't live in this country. Just like I'm not going to tell people in the UK what to do. But
when
you go to another country, respect that country's.
But you have to understand this. Even if you're in another country, I don't care. You pick the country. All right, Spain, Germany, Russia, China. Even in their own country, one section doesn't get along with the other section. One section is always doing something totally different than the other section. Like I said, you can take any country you want. There's a north to south. There's an east to west. And if they have a religious divide, there's a religious divide. Even inside a country, I don't care which one you pick, there's always conflict.
Of course.
Then when you get them in a world setting as a nation, they're always going to argue. I mean, even today, you see what's going on today. This country doesn't like this country. This country that doesn't like this country is presuming this country is going to attack this country. It's no different. Even in our own country, you have things go on in one state, and another state's doing the total opposite, and the person that's in that state's trying to tell that state what to do. If you were to complain, like, all right, my state doesn't have reservations, Native Americans. Okay, they own land here, but they don't have an official reservation. But in other states, they do. And they can tell people who can come in and come out, like they did in South Dakota. They said the governor currently can't go to certain reservations. I highly doubt that they can really stop a governor of a state to go into a part of the state that they are the governor of. But, you always have these question marks. And like I said, people that have been, if you take the example of the Irish, you can take example of other people, unfortunately haven't been successful on the world stage as a nation that can defend itself, not like Switzerland, for example. So they have a history of being conquered. All right. It's not a good thing. It doesn't feel good, but it isn't like they didn't try. And like I said, you can't say in 1,000 years from now how Ireland's going to be. Ireland might be the powerhouse in 1,000 years. And then they might be doing the same thing that they were complaining about the British. The British complained about the Romans, and look what they did. Did they not do the same thing in the 17th, 18th, and 19th, and 20th century? They did the same thing. But that at one time, if you ask a British person at the time when the Romans invaded, they would say, "Oh, we're oppressed." The trick of the trade. I hate to say this, when it comes to the world stage, the trick of the trade: don't lose a fight, don't lose a war. That's the best thing. If they know you're a country that's able to beat a porcupine, they tend to leave you alone.
Well, that's tying this into Babylon 5, that's why you see the history and things that just repeat themselves. You can see stuff that is still going on in Babylon 5 that we would be dealing with in real life. So
I mean, there you go. But you have the Narn and the I forget
the Centauri.
If the Narn situation was reversed and the Narn were able to rule the Centauri, would there be any complaints?
No. this is the same situation. If I found this out when I was playing Star Wars: The Old Republic, is the same kind of situation with the Narn and the Centauri, or you have it reverse, where even like the New Zealanders, they don't like the Australians. They say the Australians go in there and they act like they're better than them, and they don't like it. And I didn't know this until I had quite a lecture from a New
Kiwi?
Zealander. Yes, a Kiwi. Yes.
There's always been national rivalries, we can say, in depth. I could tell you, there's not a country that borders France that gets along with them.
No.
Never trust the French. That's not just a statement. That's a motto. Never trust the French.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of soldiers in World War II of our side that came back saying that, because it's like, so many French that were complacent with Germany and all that. I mean, I heard a lot of stories about that. My grandfather was talking about their disgust with the French.
Well, right, and that's why you understand even the Centauri. They the way Londo feels, even though there's things that are going wrong, and he discovers later on, he is going to support the Centauri because he's a Centauri. And just like Jakar is going to support the Narn. And it's not like the Narn doesn't have blood on their hands. The people that think like, oh, we need peace and all this stuff, it's like you always have some kind of blood on your hands. Every country has some, just like we see in Babylon 5. I mean, you can compare that to real life situations. That everyone's going to have some kind of blood on their hands, and that they want to do what's best for their country, and it may not be exactly legal.
Right.
Well, what's good for your country ain't good for the other country.
Exactly.
And if for whatever reason, if there's something in your country that I want or need, or just need for my country to survive, look. Since we use the British, we'll stick with the British. They've given up most of their colonies. All right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they still ain't got pieces of territory that people would like to have back and should have back, like they do in Cyprus. They have bases there.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the Cypriots, either side would want it back. They have the Gibraltar, which really technically should be belonging to Spain.
Right.
But the British hold it because it's control. Look, if they ever go to war and they need that place, Spain ain't going to let them have it.
No.
They control it. So that controls the mouth of the Mediterranean. Cyprus is not far from the Suez Canal. That gives the British a place where they can react to make sure, if their own interest, to keep it open. Now, you, me, and the people in these countries might not like it. Okay, but in the British eyes, it's needed for their survival. So, what can you say?
Well, let's not forget that little spat back in '82, I believe it was, when you had a place called the Falklands. Argentina and Great Britain going at it over that little piece of rock there.
I mean, you even have today with people with Japan, because of World War II. But don't forget the Chinese and the Koreans, a couple centuries before, right before the time of the Shogun TV series, China and Korea was trying to invade Japan.
Yeah.
Look, the people at that time fended them off. You could say they were the offended, but don't think people forget that 100 or 200 years later, and they think now we have a chance to give it to you, and kind of in a way, not saying totally right, but Japan kind of gave it to them. Doesn't mean tomorrow that the Chinese ain't going to try to take something from Japan. It does not mean that maybe in the future Japan tries to take something from somebody else. It's like I said, think of it, and it might be hard to use it as an analogy. Think of a sports team. Everybody's vying for a championship. You don't care how your team gets the championship. All you care is you want the championship. And if you get it one time, you want it again, you want it again, and you want it again. And if you're another sports team in the same sport, and you just for some reason can't get a championship, of course you're going to cry about it. Well, they spend more money. They're in a bigger market. They have a richer owner. You know, maybe it's a legit gripe, but why would you think to penalize somebody because they can and you can't?
But I think the big question about this all is when do you bury the sword, bury the hatchet, you might say,
right?
When you turn swords into plowshares, type of thing,
and when
you let it go,
right? And if you really believe in truly peace, then you don't go and intimidate other people. You don't cause violence to other people when you don't get your way. That's not people who are truly peaceful.
And here you basically have a species' lives in one man's hands now, and that's Franklin.
Right.
And he opts to go, I'll save you people. I'm still not happy about what all happened. But again, the sins of the father. What do you do? And he goes about that. One of the more humorous things about that, him trying to get all this information, is when he's trying to do tests on the Pakmara, and the stuff that they put in the Pakmara decides not to go well and sprays green goo all over the inside of MedLab.
Yeah, I saw that. Whoops. Yeah.
Now, the going on a little bit more, and again, going into sins of the father, you might say, aspect, because they kind of go hand in hand. And we're also seeing a turn with the telepath. And watching this episode itself kind of made me start rethinking this telepath storyline they have going on. Was this episode, and going, wait a moment, this isn't so bad, because the storyline really isn't bad. Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago or so, first watching it, whatever. But I don't know if it's because I gotten older or what. But again, the same thugs that we have are trying to push their power down below. They welcome some more telepaths on board Babylon 5, one of which seems to be able to telekinetically move things, which is a rare ability within the telepath or the Psychor community, or telepath community.
I think Baron, in this season, in this episode, the feeling I got was telepaths have now become the, I don't want to say most important, but they're highly prized.
Yes.
It's almost like a scramble to those who have telepaths and those that don't. And we get another episode, and I don't mean to jump into it, but it plays a part. The Narn would love to get their telepaths, but they don't have anymore. And we see that it's deals are being struck. I forgot her name. The girl that seems to have googly eyes for Byron.
Lita Alexander
actually offers, hey, I'll have a child for you to get your telepaths going. Think about that for a moment. Think about that. What things would you think a country, or in our world, compare it to them? Here, there's a group of people that do not have telepaths. Telepaths. So telepaths are now the nuclear weapons in this world. Every species wants to have them,
right,
at some point, and that's an equivalent to our world right now today. Everybody wants to have nuclear weapons. And if they don't have it, they want to be tied to a country that does have it.
And each one
here.
Well, each society also treats telepaths differently. Where Earth obviously has put them to a sub-segment, and they can't do this, they can't do that, they can't be in the military. Centauri, yeah, they're in the military, and they're used heavily with the Minbari, not shunned, prized. So each society has a different viewpoint of who they have as telepaths in there.
But like I said, it seems like now there's like their arms race in their universe is the telepaths, and those that have them, and we happen to see certain cases those who don't.
Right.
So people are trying to make deals, especially the Narns, if these telepaths want to have, children with us so we can rekindle our telepaths, so be it. Like I said, for me, it seems I'm seeing how far species are going to get something that they feel they absolutely need. And it was more so in this season than the previous seasons.
Well, yeah, because the things have changed on Earth, and doors are opening up with the other worlds. You have this new government alliance that's out there. There's a feeling of threat, and whether it's true or not to have that. But now you have these renegades on board Babylon 5. These are wild cards that you have. And of course, when one of their members, the one that is able to do the telekinesis, is basically separated from his group and then beaten senseless by them. Of course, he tries to fight back, even using his telekinesis power to throw some stuff at them. He's still beaten down.
Yes.
And the telepaths are now mad. They've come to the breaking point. Some of them want to respond in kind against Byron's wishes, who is thrown into the jail. And he's trying to sit back and say, let me out. I mean, I can stop what's going to happen here. And they go after the thugs and brutalize them. We don't know which ones, but they go out there and do that. And eliminate the problem, you might say. Byron, of course, has his encounter early on with the one thug, and his hit 3 times in the face. And it's like, his attitude is like, okay, you hit me one. Is the third one as meaningful as the first one? Do you really need to have 3? Basically, oh, rough girl, how you doing? Yeah, you rock too.
Yeah, rough girl, you rock.
Good to see you, rough girl.
Hello.
Good to see you. We need to talk sometime here, so please let's find a time and get a chance to talk. Catch up on some stuff and see about getting you involved in some of our programs here. Talking with you and such like we did. It's always a joy talking with you. So good to see you. Of course, Byron is released and goes back, and basically Lita and him. Oh yeah, I do miss you too, by the way. Basically, him and Lita get together, and this is the first time she's ever been with somebody since the Vorlon situation. Doesn't know how it's going to be. Starts getting the Vorlon eyes in the middle of it. Byron's people become little psychic voyeurs, but they start seeing what she sees, and it's a process that she went through with the Vorlons. And I think this is the only time we actually saw anything of the Vorlon homeworld at all. And it's tubes upon tubes of beings that are being genetically modified to become telepaths, or in her case, enhanced. And it comes to the fact that Byron comes to realization, hey, we were genetically made to be weapons. We're genetically made to be tools. If it wasn't for this, we'd be normal people. And it's the tipping point for him now. You can see that he's going from that peaceful mode into the, let's take up arms. Because now it's like, we're owed. It's like Lita's saying, what can we do? The Vorlons are gone. They're the ones that did this. And no, all the other people that used us.
Mm-hmm.
He went from being peaceful to militant, a strong turning point. And again, it comes down to that factor. Sins of the father, and even he has that attitude that they're better than the normies. It's you against us, even though he's getting a lot of help from people who are not telepaths. Franklin, Sheridan, as Sinclair, Sheridan as much as he can, Franklin as much as he can, others on board as best as they can. But still, it's still blinded by the mistreatment they've gotten from others.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
what's your thoughts about that change? You can see it in this episode, the change of his attitude to the whole thing, and even Lita trying to talk him down, you might say.
Because you're pushing somebody and you keep pushing them, and after a while you find their breaking point, and then things get worse. And with telepaths, you don't want to mess with them, Baron, because you keep messing with them, they can literally take your brain and squash it and literally destroy you with inside and kill you. Yes. I'm not, you don't want to mess with telepaths, especially ones that are, not part of the organization, that are just separate from that. And you push people, this goes with anything, and you keep pushing them, and this is the kind of stuff that can go on. Then they start attacking those men, and did they deserve it? Well, you flip the coin, I guess.
I mean, really, I think they did deserve it, but
yes.
Still, I'm not advocating vigilante justice.
Did that man deserve to die and stuff? Well, he did beat that man, that other telepath, and what was he doing? It was just who he is, like Byron said. It's funny going back and watching this stuff, but it's just, and then you put somebody like Byron in jail. Well, he is Space Jesus, and then he's seeing what's going on with these men, and it's like he needs to be able to control these other telepaths, because if not, this is what's going to continue to happen, because they're going to continue. They want revenge, and it's it becomes enough, and the lower decks is not I would say it's not exactly a fun place. It's basically the slums, of the ship.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, him finding out the truth himself is the breaking point for him. Finding out that this was all part of a bigger game, and telepaths were just basically pawns being used for it. And that's okay. That's all we were. That's all we are. We're just these little pawns.
We're just pawns to use for wars and different situations. Yes.
So I think that, for me, watching this episode really made me rethink the telepath storyline as it's going along. It's like, okay, yeah, I can see. It's like, up to this point, Byron is truly meaning what he's saying, but now he hit that breaking point with everything that's been happening to his people. Of course, the thug that got taken care of, we have to remember, he was a murderer too. He was killing people left and right down below to exert his power, or beating people, and being a thug, a coward, bully, as was stated in the other episode, Learning Curve. What do you think is, right or wrong, or how people lash out from that? What do you think of Byron in this type of situation? Do you think is it changing your opinion about how things are going with Byron, or how the storyline goes? I mean, we keep on saying Space Jesus, but obviously now he's not going on the quote unquote Space Jesus path.
Well, I mean, I think anyone could definitely have their breaking point, and when they have their breaking point, it's hard to see reason anymore. And I think that's what's happened with Byron, is he just doesn't see reason. Like he wanted to do what was right, want to be peaceful. Look, we're trying to be better telepaths, I guess you can say, and they now they're getting to become violent people. Well, it's you know, you keep pushing people. It's just like things that have gone on in high school. I'm not saying it's right, but you know, who gives other people the right to push somebody because they're different than somebody else? And unfortunately, you know, this continues to go on. And then what happens later on is there's unfortunately violence. And then, you know, they blame everybody else and stuff. It's like, no, it's the person. And you know, you need to look at the whole situation. How have we actually looked at the situation? How many times this person was bullied or pushed or treated like garbage? It all goes along the same lines. But you know, who taught them? Why didn't their parents or somebody else teach them to stand up for themselves? Yeah, but we don't ask these questions anymore, Baron. It's everybody else's fault. Yeah.
I want to blame the media on that, but
yeah,
you know, 90% of a situation where a person does something violent is majority, and we can say this, is bullying. And when I mean bullying, I mean nonstop bullying. Right?
Yep.
And I thought there was a push in the early mid 2000s to try to put it out there to end bullying. That went kind of like the same thing like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and hence we see that's back on the rise, right? But
yeah, I guess
I would say this. It's always a different story when it happens to you. Right? We have people in our country, as an example, that are conscientious objectors. Right? No problem. If they still conserve the military, they want to be a medic, clerk, or supply, you can still do that. You're not going to kill anybody. That's fine with me. I don't have a problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem if they turn around and they do like some countries in Europe and says, you don't want to join the military? Then you can do your required time as in civil service. You know, I don't have a problem with that. But let's just say you have somebody that doesn't want to fight, refuses to fight under any circumstances. Okay. That happened. That even happened and going back in our country 200 years ago. Right? I don't want to get involved in this civil war. I'm not going out there. I'm going to sit on my Virginia farm and mind my own business. Well, when Grant and Sheridan comes to your portion of that valley and don't care if you're one side or the other, they're going to burn your farm. They're going to burn your house down. I guarantee there was people that were saying, I'm not getting involved in this. But when it come time to someone burning down their property, that's a different story. Right?
It becomes personal.
It becomes personal. Now, you say to yourself, well, if you were on the Virginia side, for example, and why should you come to their rescue? You didn't want to get involved. But now that they're on your doorstep, you know, if I was somebody in the community and I said, I have to go fight, I'm trying to defend not just myself, but my neighbors and their property and you. You're not out here with me. You know, it's a different story when someone's pointing a finger. But you see that you can have a breaking point, but I think it's when something is done and it hits close to you, then it's a different story. And people can say, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm pretty sure if Barron was not a person that believed in guns and in violence, but if someone was coming into his house and threatening his family or him, I guarantee you Barron's going to find some way to defend himself and his family. You know, it's a different story when you're in the situation. That's what I'm saying.
I think the last lines of this of this episode is, Byron is saying they owe us a place where we can be among our own kind. We'll ask to speak to the Alliance, put our case before them, see if they can be persuaded to do the right thing. Leader responds back, and if they can't, he goes, then we'll make sure they have no other choice.
Yep.
I think he missed an opportunity, and still in the future missing the opportunity. If you're a commodity and nobody wants the commodity or wants to control your commodity, then you go to somebody that maybe doesn't have it, the non, and just ask them and say, hey, if we come to your home world and we just want this little island here, we'll gladly help you out. We'll provide what you need from telepaths. But that doesn't happen. And you figure 1 + 1 will equal 2, but somehow Byron, I don't know if it's in his makeup or everything, it seems like 1 + 1 = 3 for him. So that's just a feeling I get, not just with this episode, but down the future. There are opportunities for him. Like I said, they don't have to wait for this alliance or whatever you want to call it to decide, okay, we can give him a planet, which is what they want. I think more likely his better plan should have been, well, if we go to the non who don't have telepaths, hey, let's go there. Maybe they'll offer us a deal.
Right. Yeah, but I think it's seeking with that validation. They want, they want recognition. They want, as he says, they want a place for their own people to be, basically segregate themselves off from the rest of society. We want, you have your planets and your like. We want to have our like, which is understandable. Right. We do like to be amongst our own kind, but we shouldn't necessarily segregate ourselves completely off of it. Any other thoughts with this episode that we have here? And a lot of people gave this episode really low ratings, but again, I think this episode, like we're talking, there's a lot of underlying things on both of the storylines, and
it's because of those underlying things in those storylines that I think this is a strong episode.
I think so, and it made me rethink this entire storyline that they had with Byron, and it's like, okay, I'm mature enough to understand it a little bit better and get more intrigued.
The telepaths thing, even back in the mid-90s when this was out, still resonates because you can compare it to almost anything then as now. And I think that hits home, gets people to thinking. And then you get gets people thinking about, okay, Byron's a leader. You think he's Space Jesus. You're thinking that, but you can see that, okay, in certain circumstances, he's not Space Jesus.
Right.
And I guess you could say that's a good thing, because that shows that he's, can I use the term human or compassionate? I like the character, but I won't say I agree with everything he's doing.
Right.
No. And we're not supposed to.
I thought I saw him more as a religious figure, but after this episode, my thing was, he's more like Gandhi, and if you understand Gandhi, there's twists and turns in that resistance without violence. There's other undertones. He didn't use physical violence, but he used other means that you could have think that he was violent. Violence doesn't always have to be physical.
No, exactly. You got it exactly. And okay, any other thoughts before we move on to the last episode we're going to talk about today? Okay, hearing none. Woo. Okay, we're going to go and hit the next episode. It is the first episode to be written by somebody other than J. Michael Straczynski. This one was actually written by Neil Gaiman himself. If people, of course, know who he is, I'm sure. With the creator of the Sandman comic book series, amongst other stuff, Neverwhere, name it. And basically, the Brukari purchased Babylon 5 for a day, just a day, because they need to have it as Brukari soil for their Day of the Dead, a remembrance of the deceased. Lockley, of course, goes for it. Okay, get everything all done out. It's for this celebration, the Day of the Dead, because there's only one comet in the Brukari system, and it only comes to them about every 2 centuries. So this is an important event. Amidst all this, we have 2 entertainers. We've heard them before. Rebo and Zuni, played by Penn and Teller.
Yep.
And of course, there's one little problem, as they always knew from the beginning. Teller doesn't talk, meaning when he's performing.
Yes.
When he's not performing, he's very talkative. But so what do they do? Well, he's got a little voice machine, and the voice is Harlan Ellison himself. So another one that approaches that. But when they do have this, and basically sunset on the Brukari homeworld, a section of Babylon 5 becomes you can't get to it. In fact, it's basically in Brukari space, even though it's on Babylon 5. Lockley has good old Garibaldi do a system to try to get communication back to Babylon 5, and they got to go through all these planetary sub-relays. So basically, it's like them going to the Brukari homeworld and sending a signal back and to get that communication. But bizarre things happen with this to particularly 4 members of our team. Lockley, whose cabin is in Babylon in that section. Garibaldi, Lanier, who's staying on Babylon 5 for a visit because he wanted to see Rebel and Zudi. And of course, let's see, did I say Londo? Did I say Londo? Okay. What was the other one? Londo, Lockley.
Lockley. Was it
Garibaldi and
you said there were 4, so
yeah, I thought there was 4. Okay, I don't know. I have a hard time.
If it's you're fine, man.
Yeah, I'm not fine. You know that.
You'll be fine. Yeah, if it's Garibaldi, Veer, Londo.
No, the Veer's not in that one. It's
Is it Lockley?
Yeah, Lockley. Yeah. Lockley, Garibaldi.
I remember that. Yeah.
Londo, and Veer.
Right.
Not Veer, but Lanier.
Lanier. Okay.
Someone's cabin who was in there, Jakar, didn't want to be there, so he takes up residence on CNC to sleep because he doesn't want anything to do with this. He is unnerved by the whole thing, and poor on-duty guy had to put up with a sleeping Londo on the station deck there. But the bizarre things that happened in this is significant people come back from the dead. Lockley has someone that she dealt with, hung around with when she was a kid. We find out that they ran away. They were living hand to mouth. They were living in the slums. They were, drinking drugs. Not a good life at all. And her friend dies, and that was kind of a turnaround. Lockley's father, being a Marine, finds her, takes her out, cleans her up, and she decides to join Earth Force, and then she becomes the woman that she is today. So her friend comes back and visits her. With that, also, you have Garibaldi, and a more recent one was Dodger that we saw in the episode where they had all those Marines coming on board the station, and they were staying with various members sometimes of the Babylon 5 crew. And Garibaldi kind of gets close to this Dodger, but nothing came about it, of course. But now she comes back, and they have the night together. You have Londo, who has his dear beloved Adira come back, and who was the Centauri slave that was killed by Morden, making it look like it was other people involved. And she comes back for one night with Londo.
Right.
And in the most bizarre one of all, Lanier gets a visit from Mr. Morden.
That's right. Yeah.
Who is very uncharacteristically the Morden that we know. A very upfront, direct, and truthful. So with these all in there, Lockley and Zoe, who is the one that she hung around with, are talking and trying to figure out, is this a hallucination? What it is? It's like, no, it's me. I'm not a hallucination. I'm not a hologram. I'm not any of this stuff. I'm not a drug-induced thing. I don't know why I'm here. And basically, all of them kind of have that attitude. But Londo has a night of passion with Adira, his true love.
Yes.
Morden is trying to warn Lanier of his potential future and how things are not going to go well for Lanier. Lanier doesn't want to listen to him, so basically Morden spends the time reading the paper and trying to figure out if there's coffee. He wants coffee. There's no coffee on that. You have, of course, the conversation between Garibaldi and catching up with Dodger. How are things going? And of course, it doesn't consummate just like the first time around. And he's explaining everything that came up and lease and various stuff. Even though she's trying her best to get Garibaldi in the sack, it's like you'd think that a redhead for one night who you won't ever see again would be enough to get you in bed. It doesn't work, and so you have that interplay between the dead and the living for one whole Picari night.
Right.
What do you think about this? Because this is definitely a much different episode of Babylon 5 than we've seen before. Going into like mysticism almost, which
it's it's basically that object they have, if I remember, it's a certain radius, Baron, and that's why, of course, it was only affected by 4 people. That's why Sheridan sees that force field.
Well, it was actually affected by more than 4 people. It was, everybody in that section got had this situation,
right? Because somebody had the object in that area, and that's why because it all falls down to the object, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, they never really expanded on it, but they had that like the sugar skull.
Yes,
and they have it with you. And if you want to, you can eat it if it's good for your carbon. But do whatever you want. But no, people were given that. But everybody within that section of Babylon 5 had these encounters.
Yes.
And as Picard sat back and said, he regrets it, not doing that after hearing all the people. But nobody wants to say what they experience. It's just that it was extremely personal.
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose it kind of comes up to one aspect. If what would happen if you were in that situation? One night, someone from your past comes in.
Well,
and it's not necessarily even your choice. It's just somebody that is important for whatever reason. You might never even think that they're that important, but they are.
Well, it's like after sometimes people die and people say, I think I've probably experienced this, like somebody comes back into a dream and they say certain things and you wake up and you're like, this can't be real, but maybe it's just a sign of maybe you're dealing with something and somebody from your past comes back into your dreams and tells you that everything's going to be okay, and and people are like, oh, that can't be, but it does happen to people. So there has been I think I know it's happened to me. People come back into your past in your dreams and start talking to you about stuff, and you're like, is this real? So they're basically some kind of closure, I guess you could say, with certain people. Like, you wanted to see them again, and like with Lockley, her friend, she died of drugs, and maybe Lockley feels that a responsibility to some extent.
Well, I mean, even at the end there, she sat back and said, for the longest time she was going, I don't remember when I died, and and such. And then at the very end, she goes, no, I do remember. Yes, I took my own life, because Lockley didn't know if it was an accident or if it was, she took her own life. Yes. And she asked her, and just before she left, she confessed, yeah, I did that, because it was just so hard, the life that she was going through, the drugs and being out there and doing what they needed to do to stay alive.
Yeah, it's this is we could see more of this stuff in television again. I just once again, these shows used to make you think more, Baron. I think you would agree with that. I wish we could get back to that personally. I think all the stuff that I'm not going to get too far ahead of the what we're talking about, but all this stuff about it's always in your face, like flashing lights and so on, or they're explaining everything. It's like, I don't personally like that. Maybe because we're the three of us, four of us are spoiled the way we grew up, and how there was always this storytelling and how there was mystery. And when they just spoon feed everything to us, it's like, it's just not that interesting. And that's why, Babylon 5, it's just, there's still always that mystery, which I really like.
Well, I mean, that's just it. Yeah, this episode again doesn't answer any questions. It's like, we don't know what happened. Something happened, but we can't explain it. Jakar even said there's things in this universe that can't be explained.
Right.
And this is one of them. They experienced all of it, and it brings closure to Lockley with her friend Zoe. It brings a bit of a closure with Garibaldi and Dodger. Even more so with Londo and Adira. That one last night, that one closure. The only one was basically someone coming from the dead to give a warning to Lanier, and that was Morden. How unique that the man that we are known for being the smooth liar is coming in, and he's not being smooth, but he's being completely, totally honest. It's like, it's more like the Morden before he went to Zahadum.
Right, because we obviously know he was possessed by the shadows. So yeah, right. So then he must have been a different person before that happened, which is
yeah. Who was he beforehand? Of course, he knows about his death, about his head being still on display on Satari Prime, and the birds making nests out of his hair. All the good things in life, the pleasant things.
Yeah, well, he deserves it, but
yeah. The Morden post Zahadum. We don't know too much about pre Zahadum, even though there is a novel that did touch on that, but that's for another day.
Oh, is there? Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, there is. Yep.
I might have to look into that. Is. All right. Cool.
But yeah, I mean, that was the one out of the four of our people that we experienced in there that was more coming in with trying to give a warning and guidance, you might say. But again, is someone that they don't trust, or Lanier doesn't trust. He didn't really have full contact with Morden, but he knew of Morden from, of course, being with the Army of Light and Dylan and others involved in that. But that part, I think it's kind of powerful. Again, it makes you wonder what would happen if one night all of a sudden somebody came back, and why they came back. What was the purpose they came back? And this episode, I think, really, anyone who watches, especially people who lost people, even though the episode's a bit whimsical in many places in this of the whole thing, you could sit back and say it's a filler episode, but Yeah, but it's also one of extreme character building again. It's going in more about Lanier and the path he's going on. Garibaldi, what he experienced. We learn a lot more about Lockley's past and what made her who it was. And giving a bit of peace to a troubled Londo.
Right.
I don't think that it's a filler episode. I think it's a thinker episode.
Right.
There we go.
You to think, but it has a little bit of mystery because of the Day of the Dead, and I do agree with the statement that there are mysteries in the world and universe that sometimes we'll never have an answer for.
That's right.
So, what some people say, you just accept it and that's it. Premonitions, sixth senses, deja vu. I'm pretty sure all of us have experienced deja vu.
Definitely deja vu.
You think you've been to a place you've never been before, but you can swear that you actually were there. It happens to people. I can tell you this, and I'm not scared to say it. It was deja vu to me. As a kid, I had a dream that I was on a hill, and there was a brick walkway. All right. Never couldn't place it. I had that dream like I was like 9 or 10. Age 14, I went to Italy, visited family, and lo and behold, identical to what I dreamt when I was about 11 years old, that very walkway with the bricks and everything to the T. And I was freaking out. I was telling my mom, I said, I dreamt about this. I never been there. Never seen there, not even a picture. But I didn't get the deja vu until it was there in the flesh. And there's been people that have had similar experiences. Can it be explained? Possibly. Can I? Nope. So, but when it comes to this episode, I don't know. I wouldn't put it under filler. I just think it's a thinker episode.
Yeah.
I will tell you that it was even emotional a little bit because luckily, you find out about her friend and, how she died and stay with drugs, and that played a big part. And, at that time, 90s, they were trying to drugs bad, even more than they did the 80s. So,
drugs bad, okay? Yeah, I mean, South Park did a whole thing of it. The drugs are bad, okay?
So, but I like this episode for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was a filler episode. I actually think it was a good standalone episode. Yeah.
And I mean, again, I don't want to trash other franchises, but what we're getting today that used to give us thinking episodes can't do anything like this.
No, because they just it's the narcissism, in my opinion, and it's just the agenda, and it's just not as interesting as making people, hey, there's some mystery here. Hey, there's mystery with this relationship. Hey, there's mystery with this situation. Hey, what's going on in space? Just all these different things that we grew up with that really made you think and said, "Wow, that's interesting." Boba Fett, for example, used to be quite mysterious, not just as a bounty hunter. Like, you learn things about him, but it just was like, and when you found out more about him, like, wow. That's really cool. Yeah.
I would say if you were to take this episode and make it today and put it in the hands of today's creators,
a lot of them, yes,
they would take Lockley and her friend here, and they would imply immediately,
oh yeah,
there was a relationship between these two while they were doing drugs together.
Absolutely.
They automatically. The idea in today's world that people can be just friends it's not understandable in today's world.
You know? They're comrades in a bad situation.
You know, if you would have told me when I was watching this back in the day that these two had a relationship, I was saying, no, you can see they're friends. Mm-hmm. But in today's world, they have to make it that way.
Right.
It has to be that way, because no way can two people be together and doing drugs or whatever they're doing and not be involved. Everything has to lead to that. Right. In today's world. And that was not the case in the mindset in the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, and the 70s. Not everything had to be sexual.
No, I agree with you. No, it doesn't. And things can just be implied.
But when you have writers today that have no clue how to write, and the only thing they understand is sexual identities or sexual whatever, they can't get away from it, and they can't stop.
Right.
Well, it's just stop.
I'll give you an example for today's world. In today's world, and I can tell you, with me and Baron, same time, we never heard about Darth Vader being sexual, or if he could be sexual, we didn't care.
No.
But in today's world, well, does Darth Vader, does he have his organ? And if he does have his organ, can he use it? And if he can use it, has he used it on anybody since he's been Darth Vader? And I'm sitting here, and I can tell you even right now, cringing. Why does that even matter? Why would you even Baron, help me out here. Have you ever thought about Darth Vader and his sexuality?
Nope.
And his ability to be sexuality?
Nope. Never came to mind. None of this stuff.
Not everything has to end. And like I said, for me in this last 20 years, it's like everything has to end. Bottom line, it's sexual.
Yeah, it has to be sexual. And people go, well, what's wrong with that? It's like, well, what's wrong with it is that it's always pushed in your face. I mean, look, things like Game of Thrones, fine, it makes sense, but other stuff out there, no. In Lord of the Rings, it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't need to be there. Things can just be mysterious. The relationships, straight, gay, trans, whatever, anything can just be a mystery. But for whatever reason,
it doesn't have to be everything sexual.
No. It doesn't.
You have some people that will probably tell you in today's world that Frodo and Sam were sexual.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're going to do that.
And look, even now, people go back and they say something like the story of Trojan War, Achilles and Patroclus. Oh, they were sexual. You can probably, even today's world, if you were looking at it, but in 100 years ago, and even 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, can that not be friends?
Well, it's the same thing with and this is a more recent thing, and however you feel about this, it's like, look, in the timeline, this is of course just another example. Go along with stuff like I would say Babylon 5, but in terms of relationships or whatever, or does it need to be? Even like we know with Talia Winters and Ivanova, they spent time together and they see some kind of, that it's possibility there's something could have happened, but they didn't really show it. And the mystery to me is better. But when you have something like even in the comics with X-Men 97, where Rogue at the time is 17 and Magneto is an older man, well, that just seems but they have to push that. They didn't have to. A lot of people didn't like it in the comics. I've had this conversation. Jace would told me all about this stuff because he's read a lot of these comics, and I agree with him. Why do we have to push this?
Well, I will tell you this as a person that grew up in the 70s and the 80s. Baron probably can experience the same. Seeing an older man with a younger woman That you saw. I could say I seen that in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know
in
it.
high school.
Mm-hmm.
But my point being about what you say about a comic book, that shouldn't be in a comic book, because comic books for me is, yeah, adults read it because they're reminiscent or their experience what they were when they were kids. But for me, that's for children. And if a child can get his hands on it, or she can get her hands on it, it shouldn't, you shouldn't put it in there. That's like taking fairy tales like they're doing now and changing it up to make it for adult.
Right.
And they're giving it to a kid. No, you don't do that.
No.
There's specific reasons why, you know what, a kid should be a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't understand it. I mean, but like I said, I mean, in today's world, you would, if this show was today and this episode was today, everybody would swear up and down Sheridan's reason to bring his ex onto the station and put her in charge is because he probably has some feelings for her.
Right.
Okay.
But they
maybe he does have feelings of friendship and of trust, but as far as their relationship, like they were married, I don't see Sheridan in that situation.
Well, yeah, they made it known,
They made it known that they had a brief marriage.
Yes.
Right.
And it happens. You can go with somebody today and you think, oh, this is wonderful. And then a month and 2 or 3 down the road, you're like, well, this person is, I like them every which way, but not in a romantic way.
Right.
It happens.
Yes.
But to get a writer to write that today, no.
They can't.
I can tell you this. I have friends, male friends I have for 40 years. I have a female friend that I've known for 20. Never thought her other than a friend. You know, it's not that person doesn't attractive or anything like that, but it just never was. It was built on friendship, and sometimes that should be enough. For me, that's enough. You know, but for other people, you can't be friends with the opposite sex. You know, I dare to think, as a kid watching TV shows and movies and seeing kids on TV shows and movies have a sleepover, some of these people, what would they want to write about sleepovers? You know, I had my children had sleepovers. You know, I can guarantee you nothing went on because I was there. You know,
pillow fights happened.
Pillow fights. That's as far as it happened. You know,
well,
but
you know the one.
Like, you know, other things, no. Because it's not supposed to be that way. Look, like I said, kids should have kids, and it should be about kids, and letting them be kids, especially now in today's world where kids don't have the abilities of things that, as a kid like me, the ability to go outside and play, the ability to do things, and hey, not be tied down to a cell phone. Right. You know, I love electronics. I love computers. I love the cell phone. Hey, call up your kid, tell them it's time to come home. But we grew up at a time when we didn't have that, and our parents would say, soon as the night lights come on, or as soon as it start getting dark, you got to come in. You know,
well, you know,
that was rules.
But to get back to a little bit with this episode here, just wanted to say, you know, Neil Gaiman, of course, who wrote this story, basically, this is how he kind of synopsed what he wrote. It's a ghost story about religion, or a drama about comedy in the nature of metaphor, or something like that. So, in other words, you know, this is an episode to give us more questions.
Right.
To think about.
Up for interpretation, which is nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, to go with it, you know, it's, dare I say, intellectual episode. Something that we are so sorely missing these days.
Yes,
on there.
Yes, we are.
And of course, Zoe left a message behind from Kosh to Sheridan about going to the end, when the time at the end, go to where it's the beginning. Basically, you know, kind of a prophetic thing, or what would you say, a puzzle for him to figure out to go when his time comes. Quickly before we do end this episode, because we are going a little late, but to hit a little bit with Rebo and Zudi, they wanted to leave show business, go into politics, and talked out of it. They didn't feel it, especially during the Earth War, Civil War. They didn't feel that they were, there was nothing. There were nothing in there, which of course, no, your entertainment helped keep us going through. You're very important. You're like the jester that can go out there and say the things without getting your head chopped off by the king, type of situation. And it's funny how there's they made little parallels to, of course, Laurel and Hardy, the new Sons of the Desert, and more importantly, the response that Lockley had towards him, kind of like the same way that a lot of women don't like the Three Stooges, like Mike Cash and myself being on there. Yeah. So the Rebo and Zudi obviously was the smaller of the two then there, but most of it was hitting with a philosophy. And again, we don't need answers. It just makes us think even more and makes us wonder. And, what would happen in the situation? What would be relayed? The funny thing is, though, is you have that one line from good old Morden, who's absolutely, kind of goes, he tells Lanier, one does not go to the dead for wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
So, any last thoughts about this episode? Again, the first one written by someone other than JMS since season 2.
I thought it was a great standalone episode. Mm-hmm. To me, it almost had a flavor of what was that? Ricardo Montalban on that island. What was that island show called?
Talking about Fantasy Island?
Fantasy Island. Because some people go to the island and whatever they're going there for, sometimes they don't get an answer that they expect. It doesn't come out the way that they believe it should come out or anything. When they experience this, where they're seeing the dead people, some of them start thinking, on the show, they thought they were having an issue, but and the funny thing is, we have things in our society that are very similar to the I can't even speak. What people have like similar to the Day of the Dead,
right?
So I can understand the Day of the Dead. I got, as a Catholic, there's All Saints Day and All Souls Day, if you want to call it that. So I can understand the day. But like I said, I wouldn't. To me, I never considered this episode a throwaway. I just thought it was a unique standalone. I would have found it interesting what Byron would have thought about the Day of the Dead and experienced something in that manner.
Good point.
That would have been nice to see, Hey.
And if Ivana was still around, would it be Marcus that visited her?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Good point.
The only thing I did question, and I still question, if a person has passed away, how could they tell you anything about what you're doing in the future? Because their last recollections that they have when they were alive ended that moment they died. So it gets you to think, which it did get me to think, does a person die in this universe and they can still see what's going on? Or, maybe this is not really a reality and more of the Day of the Dead in this situation is more conscious of people dealing with something that happened to them and they're trying to come to terms with.
Well, are we also like in a snow globe like they showed in Men in Black? I mean, I'm just saying, it's just they make you think about this stuff since there's so many universes out there.
If we were stuck in the snow globe in our reality, it isn't snow. It's some other type of chemical that's involved into
it. Okay. Any other last thoughts on this episode, gentlemen? Well, with that, I do have to quote Kosh. When the long night comes, return to the end of the beginning. So good to have a nice Koshism at every episode of Babylon 5. Before we go here, I'd like to, of course, ask my esteemed panel: is there, first of all, Mr. Phil McCracken? Glad that you're here. Glad you made it. Anything on your plate?
The only thing on my plate that's coming up is I have a stream with Paul and Phantomology Monday, which has been changed and changed back. We're doing part 2 of the Return to the King episodes. And if I'm correct, either is it to Sunday or Monday that we're doing our gaming stream, Cash, Myth Wars.
Yeah, it might.
I forgot it. I think
I haven't I don't think we've decided on a day yet, but we will do it in the next.
It'll be Sunday or Monday. I'll make Cash Money do it one of them days.
Oh, great! I'm going to be hearing. Where's my Myth Wars?
No. My new battle cry is, "Where's my Shogun?"
Oh, Shogun, no. Well, that's between you and Krit.
No. That's between me and Cash now. Me and Cash.
Oh, okay. My apologies, Mr.
Oh boy,
you're okay.
Okay, and we have, of course, our poor put upon Cash, Monet. Anything on your plate, sir?
Yeah. I've got a stream coming up on Tuesday at 10 p.m. with Angry Canadian. And we're going to be talking about East is a long-running Japanese RPG series, and he's going to do some research and ask me some questions, and I'm going to be grinding for levels, and it should be a lot of fun. And then
I do have a quick question. Now, is this in English or is it all in Japanese?
No, it's in English. This is English.
I know there's some that are in Japanese, and sometimes they
yes.
give you the subtitles. So
yes, sometimes, yeah. I think you can put the language to Japanese if I remember. I just usually don't. The English, the dubbing or whatever, it's not bad. It's pretty good.
None of that. All your bases belong to us stuff.
No, that's funny though. So yeah, that's coming up, and then I've still got my video that I'm working on of basically telling Zoe Saldana that we don't need a sequel to Star Trek. The three were, well, they're not memorable, but whatever. Yeah.
I wanted to get a date with her too for dinner.
No, well, she thinks that we need a sequel, and I need to, that's why I'm doing a video and saying no, we do not. It's just
that's because she wants a job. That's why.
Right. I've liked her in certain things, and I don't think she's bad in Star Trek, but still, I just don't think we need it. So yeah, that video is coming up, and then of course we've got Helldivers 2 again on Friday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that'll be fun. And then I'm still working on some other stuff. Yeah,
I've heard of that game.
I know, right?
That's going to be the return of Team Scrubs.
Oh boy. Yeah. And we're and when we put our flag up, we're going to sacrifice. We're going to say we didn't do it for democracy. We did it to sacrifice Phil McCracken. So
no,
there we go.
Did it for Mickey Mouse. So you put the sign of the mouse ears up.
No mouses, no mice.
Nope.
Okay, Doc, Pop, Mike, yourself. What exciting things do you have in the world of Pacific 414?
Well, tomorrow on Pacific 414 for the YouTube channel, the Twitter page, and also the Rumble channel at 1 p.m. Eastern will be the Sunday edition of Pacific 414 Pop Talk. We'll, of course, be talking about an article related to Stellar Blade, an article related to the Tomb Raider remaster to counter the Stellar Blade article, and Roboson, a company that manufactures very expensive robotic toys, I should say, made an announcement about a certain Decepticon leader joining the ranks of their auto-transforming licensed Transformers line.
I hear you are putting a lot of your pennies away so you can afford that one. I hear it's expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, it's expensive, and it's not going to be one that I'm going to be adding to my collection anytime soon. It's nice to look at, though. I'm not going to lie, it's real nice to look at. But
you think it's overpriced?
I think a lot of their auto transforming Transformers line in particular is overpriced.
It's like they act like they use some kind of super gold or something on there.
Oh, come on, Mike. You don't need that kidney. You can sell it. Sell it for that thing. Kidney for a Transformer.
We all know that cash money is cheap, and anything over a certain price, he freaks out. So
no. I know you wouldn't buy it either, Phil. But you would buy some
spoiler for.
Sure. Yeah, okay.
This is a spoiler for tomorrow's show. They're definitely nice to look at. I think it's a remarkable piece of engineering to be able to create these auto-transforming figures of Optimus Prime, Grimlock, and Megatron and have them transform via an app or voice command. But at the price that they want for them, I was thinking to myself, gosh, I could pay my mortgage.
Yeah. 1 month mortgage. You'll be behind 1 month. You won't get thrown out.
And
you tell that on
then on Tuesday, I'll continue with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I know someone's out there is probably saying, "Why aren't you playing Stellar Blade on Tuesday?" It's because I am getting very close to completing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I want to be able to complete it.
Good.
I have 3 more chapters to go in that game, so I want to be able to get through it. And then Wednesday on Pop Talk at 6 p.m. Eastern, and yes, Tuesday's stream is also 6 p.m. Eastern, but Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we will be welcoming a good friend, Fat Steven Seagal, and he will join us, and he will talk about his journey as a content creator, excuse me, his favorite style of games that he likes to play, and also how he got into graphic design.
He does good work. Good work.
Yep.
And as someone who's worked with him, he's a great guy. He really is.
Yeah, he is. And Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, over on the Notorial Lifeforms channel, I will be on his Chillporial stream as a guest. And it's been a while since I've been on his channel, and I'm sure we're going to have a good time talking about, any topic that comes up. Then, of course, Friday, I'll be with Cash and Baron playing Helldivers 2. And Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Yes, I'm doing a 10 a.m. Eastern Time stream Saturday. I will be playing part 2 of Stellar Blade. I know everything that's going on with Stellar Blade as far as the censorship and everything, but like I alluded to before with tomorrow's Pop Talk episode, I'm hoping the pushback that happened with the Tomb Raider collection happens with Stellar Blade. But overall, right now, I'm still enjoying my gameplay experience, and that's what matters to me is the gameplay experience.
Yes, you have to ask yourself all the time, is it whatever's altered? Even if they said that it wasn't going to be altered, are you still getting your money's worth? So
I still think I'm getting my money's worth because remember what I said about the demo. I did not like the controls in the demo. I thought the input lag was going to hurt the game. However, as I have stated multiple times, I started thinking about when I played RoboCop Rogue City. I didn't like the demo in that game for the same reason, the controls. Then Krit was telling me about the full game, and I decided to bite the bullet and buy the full game. And I don't regret doing that. I had a lot of fun playing RoboCop Rogue City.
Yeah, I got to start playing that. Yeah, I have no excuse. I got to play it now. I mean, it looks great. And I know this is your opinion about the Stellar Blade.
Well, like I said, I'm a man. I'm a man in my 40s, and when I was a kid and in my teenage years, even in my 20s, yeah, graphics were impressive. Graphics did help sell games to me, but now that I'm older, I want to make sure that when I put the game into my system or download the game in some cases, because you can't purchase a physical copy of most PC games nowadays, but I want to make sure that the game plays well. It could
Right.
be as sharp as it can be, the visuals can be eye popping, perfect eye candy as far as graphics are concerned. But if the controls aren't there, then I'm gonna let you know. Okay, this game may look good, but I can't recommend this game because of the controls here, here, and here. Now, I did notice last night when I was playing the full game. Yes, the controls are much better, but I notice how I still have to be very careful how I move the left analog stick left, right, up, and down. Because if I move it too quick, then the character Eve will move very quick, and you gotta basically stop the character and make sure that if you're gonna go onto a platform and jump to another section, that you're precise. But it doesn't take away from the gameplay. And one of the examples is when I was playing against the first boss. In the demo, it took me a very long time to beat that first boss in the demo because of the input lag of the controls. But in the full game, it didn't take me nearly as long. And some might say, well, that's because you gained experience from fighting the boss in the demo. Yes, but also one of the issues when I was playing the demo and fighting this boss was you hit circle to dodge, and there was very little input when you hit the dodge button. It was mostly delayed input. But when I was doing it last night, it's like, yes, it's dodging when I'm telling it dodge right now. And if I did get hit because I didn't dodge, well, that was 100% on me last night. Because I could see it coming, but I didn't respond as quickly as I should have.
Well, it's good to hear that you're having a good time with that, and I'm glad it worked out for you.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it is. That, like I said, you get a demo, and yeah, it's jinky, but you have to remind yourself it is just a demo. It's not the finished product per se. So you really hope, and I can understand these days because how these companies have been running. Are they really going to fix it? Is it going to be this way? Are they going to be good at make good of the whole thing? So
I mean, I know I beat this drum over and over again when it comes to a game that didn't have good mechanics, even with its full release, was Gotham Knights. Even after a 40 gigabyte patch, it was still a mess.
Yeah.
And I'm specifically talking about the PC gameplay here.
Yes.
I'm not talking about PS5 or any console gameplay with Gotham Knights. I'm specifically talking about the PC.
Right.
A decent game that could have been so much better. Yeah.
Definitely. Anything else on your plate there, Doc Pop?
No, I just want to say I appreciate everybody who takes the time to stop by the Twitter page since we've been streaming on there, and also the YouTube channel, the Rumble channel, the Twitch channel, and I know I haven't streamed on it in a while, but even the Kick channel. Just want to say thank you.
Yeah, because just like I want to say thank you to everybody, because everybody is important, whether you are in the chat or not, or are currently on Facebook, Twix, of course, YouTube here for watching and putting up with our antics. Thank you so much. I do want to thank on YouTube side because we did have Phil McCracken, who is also on the panel here. I suppose I should do that. Don't be half-butted about this. We had, of course, everyone's favorite penguin besides Punk Waddle, a low-spec Linux laptop, 2 penguins in her, 1 penguin leaves. I hate when you have to cough. We had the lovely Rough Girl, and we do miss you, and you do rock as well. And the old man came staggering in at the very end. And to answer the question that you had in your chat there, did they know end knowing what the future is? No, of course not. There was only one prophetic thing out of the whole thing, and that was Morden talking to Lanier. So, yes. What was Morden telling the truth or not? We'll find out. And with that, I'm going to thank everybody, Mike, Cash, Phil. Again, thank you all. You make me look good by being good panelists as well. And I wish everyone a great night, morning, afternoon, whenever you might be watching this program. I thank you all. Love you. Take care.